Great. So thanks, everybody. It's 4:30, and I appreciate everybody coming here. Before I begin, I want to just set some context of what I'll be covering today. It's not meant to be a technical conversation. We're not going into details, but I've had a lot of customers ask around strategy, around what's happening in voice, around what's going on in the customer journey. So, I encourage everybody to ask questions, even possibly learn from each other. And you can use this as ultimately a playbook that you can have conversations with a lot of digital leaders within your organization around the importance of voice and some really pragmatic steps around how to think about that. So with that, I'm going to be kind of skipping around also between different examples with insurance, mortgage, retail banking, and wealth management. So bear with me. So Shane Closser, I'm the head of industry of Yext. I'm ultimately responsible for product and strategy and work with a lot of our online publishers. You can imagine who those big ones are. You can search them, you can like them, and you can interact with them online. And really what we're talking about here, and this whole point of the conference, is voice is set to be the next major disruption that we are going to face. And as we start to think about that, Yext is constantly doing research. So researching, talking to customers, prospective clients. And this is some recent research that we recently did. I think what's fascinating about this is it starts to inform the customer journey. We've been doing this for a while. We've done it across industries. And there were big surprises that I'm seeing in just every 6 weeks as we start to look at a lot of this research. And so we can see, I think that statistic from today's keynote is up to 50% is what we've heard, but 45% of people are using voice every day. We're seeing that 15% of prospects are using voice. They prefer to use voice as their primary mechanism for finding an agent, a mortgage loan officer, and a financial advisor. 66.3% of consumers are really looking for deep information around those prospective products and services that they're looking to buy. So it's not just, I want to find a mortgage loan officer in a specific location anymore. Certainly that's where you need to start. But it also becomes, what languages do they speak? How local are they to me? So what we've seen is 80% of all search queries online are being happening on a mobile device. And all of those are location aware, so they can tell where you are. And Google and all these online publishers who want to keep consumers going to them as a source of truth are ultimately allowing that information to be discovered around financial advisors, mortgage loan officers, branches, ATMs, and everything. It's certifications, it's products that they cover, it's hours that they're open. And most importantly, what we're seeing, this was a really interesting fact from a lot of the online research that we did, is reviews. For the first time, we've seen tied referrals from a friend and family member as far as what's really important. So reviews, you will not hear me say that enough, that are going to become a more and more important aspect within your data management strategy for specifically managing the customer journey. And then, so what we've seen here, yes, conversational AI is supposed to be the, supersede cloud, mobile, and ultimately, as Gardner's talking about this, what they're really talking about too is there's no one out there that can predict the future, right? We're not soothsayers. We don't, and what we're also seeing is, California is very different from North America, is very different from Ohio as far as adoption of technologies. So we have a lot of the things going on here. One is changing customer demographics, right? So we've all talked about millennials and some of the importance of millennials. And in that research that we found with some of the millennials, they're doing more online than a lot of traditional prospects and customers have done. Now, it doesn't mean that they're looking to do everything direct. Actually, we find that's a misnomer in the industry. It just means that they're looking for all these public answers because they had Google in their hand when they came out of the womb. They're used to finding those answers. And so what we really see is conversational AI is now starting to really impact a lot of the customer journey. So within that customer journey, some other interesting facts is we found for an insurance agent or insurance prospect, they went to 8.9 different places, not just your website, but 8.9 different places to determine what products they wanted. And they started asking questions like, should I buy insurance? What type of insurance do I want to buy? And so ultimately what this is starting to kind of lay the groundwork for is a few trends. One is, give up on trying to control the journey, right? So what you can do is you can mine information, you can mine what customers are searching for, and you can start managing those public facts around the complete customer journey. So this is really interesting for those that really aren't familiar with a knowledge graph. A knowledge graph is a brain-like database. And in 2012, Google came out with managing objects and relationships between objects, right? So think about this in financial services. I can have a branch. A branch may have mortgage loan officers, it may have insurance, it may have other core services. Those services also make up the branch. Usually there's individuals that are connected into those core services. They can have different office hours, and a lot of times we're moving to ATMs and advanced mobile kiosks that are starting to take shape in our industry. So this database and the relationships between all these databases exist, and then what we start to see is the answers. So a lot of organizations are seeing this phenomena happening on their website, which is the traffic's going down. And at the same time, what we're seeing is, as of July of last year, financial services and professionals became a real thing. Right? I think this was July 2017. But they've started to define these relationships to your organizations and how people are discovering them. Remember, name, location, prominence, which could be reviews around individuals. And all this information is going to several different endpoints. It's not just branches and financial professionals. We also see events. We'd see feature snippets, which was all of that authoritative content about your brands and services and people around the product. We expect this to continue, and so that's the only thing that we can count on is change is inevitable. Now, this is really fascinating. So Harvard came out with this study that basically said AI. What is AI? 70% of most successful AI programs spent most of their time wrangling lots of data. And as we can see by this slide, by the way, this is for mortgage loan officers, so I'm skipping from insurance to mortgage loan officers, is the amount of information that is incorrect is prolific across all these channels. So 60% of the information out there right now is missing. You're not having mortgage loan officers show up, the branches aren't showing up. Duplicate information is a lot of these tools are going out and they're looking at different channels. So they might search Yelp, they might look at other online publishers to find out that correct answer, which is creating shadow profiles. This is all introducing friction to the customer. And then you can see the amount of wrong names and errors that we're starting to see. Ultimately, for most successful voice strategies, first you've got to manage all the information about your various different brands. There was another interesting quote. So Gartner's come out and said that voice will be the most transformative trend that we're going to see right now, but they've also said that 90% of the data warehouses that we have today, just think about that. We have customer data marts, we have marketing data marts, we have data lakes. 90% of those aren't able to manage information in a correct way to just do these basic things. We're just talking about people and branches today. And that gives us an area of opportunity. Why? Because if we look at the level of information, it's not just about storing in a database, but it's about providing business quality data, which means it needs to have supervision at the branch, at the field, down to the level of individual. It also means that we want intelligence around it. Intelligence is usually information around consumption, and that consumption is different for different regions, as I've made that point, which is, are people actually querying this information? What are the ways that people are asking for these products and services around my brand? So with that, we're gonna kind of touch on a few different areas. One is, this presumption that search maps and directions are diverting the path to your website. And two is your brand is everywhere and kind of thinking about some problematic voice and chat strategies. So first of all, let's look into this. A lot of times we'll talk about the customer journey and we'll talk about the websites upside down. So this is a linear kind of search experience that all of us that have worked with content management systems, Sitecore, Adobe, every big digital project that we've gone out there, we've curated these experiences where they go to these search tools, they go to our homepage, they go to a category page, and then from there it's choose your adventure, where do I want to go? Now what we're finding is all of these experience, because of these online publishers providing these structured answers, the homepage is actually on the bottom of the experience. Who goes to the homepage anymore when you're looking for a financial advisor, a product, a service? They aren't going there, A, because the online publishers are providing those structured answers with that information. So they're going directly to the online publishers, and then ideally a best practice is to be 1 to 2 clicks away. A lot of times those listings today take them to your homepage. They make them start the experience over. You're not using the artificial intelligence within Amazon, within Google, within Yelp, right? So we start to think about how we manage this information. And this is another factoid. As soon as Google started coming out with these structured answers, we saw Wikipedia traffic drop by 21%. So there's more and more evidence out there of where this kind of journey is going to go, and it's going to become less on the properties that we owned and more of the properties that we're managing information across. And so if we think of this from an SEO perspective, we'd always refer to things as backlinks. Backlinks, you can think of citations, right? So there's Google and Amazon and all these different organizations are looking for, is this information across all of our online publishers? So for mortgage, it could be Zillow, it could be LendingTree, right? It'll be Facebook and Google and all these other places. But what you want to really be able to do is manage all the information across all these different entities to provide that structured answer and to be able to go to that perfect place where you can convert them and have your call to action. Right? All this can be controlled in an API, right? So first thing you need to do is go out there and claim your listing. Second thing you need to do is be able to manage your information so that you can disseminate it to all these intelligent platforms via an API, and then be able to allow the business to be able to then come in and manage it at multiple different levels. And so what we can start to see is people are taking different paths, placing calls, appointments, orders. They're taking action at various different touch points. To the point, what we're seeing is right now over 73% of all the traffic, high intent traffic, is going to these touch points. And what we've touched upon this slide, as a marketer, we have to worry about more and more things today. Print is not going away. It's actually still one of the highest kind of ROI channels as we look at really disseminating our message to market. But we start to imagine search, we start to imagine these other systems that we're starting to work with. So a lot of financial services organizations have Salesforce. One of the things that people are trying to do is, how do I take reviews and then be able to see, do I have a 1-star review? Is it a 5-star review? If it's a 1-star review, do I need to triage that to a service desk to be able to respond to that? So it's this actions and these insights becoming actionable that we start to look at integrating these various different systems, and then we start to see about connected cars and connected homes. So here's a little bit more information I just want to share with the team. So we've all seen this emergence of voice that's happening. What is really interesting, as voice rises, other channels fall, right? So TV, yes, we're still using it. Tablets, computers, even smartphones are predicted to fall. I think it was really interesting to steal a quote from one of our other Yaxters, is the average person can type in search, 3 different things. They can speak around 5 words, and if you're from New York, maybe it's 7, right? So, but there's so many different things that we could really use to understand around the journey and the preferred channels that customers are going to based on a lot of natural language processing. And so I've kind of hit this slide. Let's see here, build's correct. So what we really see is 73% of high intent traffic is going to these online publishers where you can manage or not manage the public facts around your brand. But when you're not, we can see that 60% of that information is incorrect or it's missing. And ultimately, this is a way to harmonize your online experience with these online publishers. And as we look at voice, it's the same thing. Just think of voice as another endpoint in this, in this journey. And what you really see is you can't manage the user interface, right? So you can't manage the algorithms, but what you can do is manage your data. So I think I've read Google last year had like 4,000 different changes into their algorithms. I've seen, at least in the last 6 weeks, 3 major ones with Amazon. But as they provide these structure avenues, it just gives organizations a major opportunity to leverage voice in 2 different ways. So we've heard a lot about skills and developing skills and the value of developing skills, but really voice search is equally just as important. And I would argue that a lot of people need to start there before we start thinking about all these skills. How do we start to manage all of the public information around voice search, which is those structured answers that we're finding? The other interesting thing is, as we can see here, whether we're talking about the web, whether we're talking about chat, or whether we're talking about voice, when I want to find a financial advisor near me, each of them are providing these structured answers. So we start to think of almost all this business data that we need to manage around all these various different endpoints to create this customer engagement platform, a digital knowledge management platform, that the organization can permission and control data and its dissemination to these various different points. And so distance, what we've talked about is distance, relevancy, and prominence. So distance is how close is it to me. Relevance is really is it about the right subject, and prominence is how many stars. So those are the various different kind of macro things that we need to consider. And then within this, as we look at some of these trends, what we can really see is chat. And so today, Facebook, a lot of people are experimenting in Facebook. Google is soon to be coming out with its own chat interface. And there's a lot of research that says they're even going to be getting rid of SMS and really starting to lean into chat. So this is a major opportunity for us to think about managing our information across all these different channels. And then Apple, of course, has talked about their business chat. So what we've really said is chat's real, right? It's here now. People are interacting with it. We're seeing the adoption rise quite a bit. And then what we've also seen is this information today is locked in all these existing systems. So it's in CMS systems, it's in data providers, it's in listing platforms and underwriting platforms. And as we look going into the future, what we really see is developing this data knowledgement graph. And so if we develop the knowledge graph, we can manage the public facts around that, and we see this convergence, right? And this convergence is, I go to different places as a consumer. So if I want directions, I'm gonna go to Google Maps. I'm gonna go to Apple Maps. If I want reviews, I'm going to Yelp. If I want to take pictures, I can go to Snapchat. And then what we're seeing is, depending on the geography you're from, it could be WeChat or Baidu if I'm a foreign national coming into the United States. I don't use Google anymore. So if we think about how that's really shaping the experience, we can have hundreds, if not thousands, of different things that consumers are searching for. And the narrative from this whole story is you can either provide the answer and be the authority on providing this answer or not. So regardless of going into voice skills, voice discovery, it's managing what could be hundreds of journeys and thousands of facts across those various different channels. So this is something to kind of leave everybody with. Google and Amazon and Facebook will always provide that horizontal knowledge graph around a business. Now, I think what we really have the opportunity as a lot of organizations is start creating an intelligent system to manage your knowledge graph, right? Which all the questions consumers would want around your brand and all the facts around your brand. And this is really where we're seeing a lot of investment opportunities for large financial brands. to the point where we can start to manage intent and we can start to answer all of these various different aspects, right? Agents near me in a specific location for a various different product line. Do they have life events, right? To be able to manage all of these different intelligent facts around the organization, and ultimately to the point where we can say, I want a financial planner who has these certifications and speaks these various different languages. So, with this, that kind of centerpiece is managing your public facts. What we're starting to see is there's various different systems that we also want to look at sharing that and actually even taking some of these facts out of these various different platforms to then disseminate those into actions that can eventually take us to these endpoints that consumers are searching with. So with that, I wanted to also leave organizations with some places they can go for reference guides. So there's a lot of great material in here around how to manage voice as a brand, just steps and more research of all the research I've shared in this document that you can go to. So if you have any other questions, you can find me after this session, but I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.